welcome to Clearview News Desk. We're reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. First, the headlines. Tension as Christian traditional groups lock horns in Delta over land ownership. Bauchi High Court sentences young man to death for murder following argument over a phone charger. Dumping priesthood for marriage, best decision for my brother. Suspended Catholic priest's sister reveals. I'm Gloria Atta with these and more. Welcome. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has identified inflation as the most pressing challenge to stabilizing Nigeria's economy. Despite rising inflation, Edun assured that the nation's economy is on a steady path to recovery and growth. He made the remarks on Monday in Abuja during the 2025 budget defense session before the Senate Committee on Finance. Let's now join Clearview's correspondent for details. For many years, Nigeria's inflation has been an issue of concern, with the inflation rate higher than the average for African and sub-Saharan countries, which negatively impacts the economy, causing prices to fluctuate, leading to unemployment and increased poverty. On January 15, the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) reported that Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 34.80% in December 2024, up from 33.60% in November. This marked the fourth consecutive monthly increase. Speaking at the 2025 budget defense session before the Senate Committee on Finance, led by Senator Sani Musa, APC Niger East, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, identified inflation as the most pressing challenge to stabilizing Nigeria's economy, emphasizing that it undermines economic reforms and growth efforts, making it a critical focus for the government in 2025 and beyond. Edun also highlighted measures such as boosting domestic food production and improving food accessibility for Nigerians to cushion the effect.
It is still a difficult road to travel, although we are very much going in the right direction. The economy is turning the corner. We can look forward to brighter prospects. Inflation remains stubbornly high, and Central Bank is doing its utmost to ensure that it tames inflation so that living costs can come down. And in particular, the government is focused on making food production, increasing food production, so that food inflation, which is a major component, is ameliorated.
Members of the Finance Committee further asked the minister some salient questions on the current state of the country's economy and efforts being made to bring about positive change.
Honorable Minister, your budget with a personnel cost of 2.4 billion, an overhead of 8.5 billion, and a capital of 27.4 billion. Is it the opinion of the committee that we approve this proposal? Those in support say yeah. And those against, the ayes have it. Please now, you can take your leave, Honorable Minister.
Little corruption in the agencies and ministries that you have noticed that probably brought the attention to bring about this centralized working system. The centralized system now is awesome. It is not working. There is still a bottleneck of corruption, and unless that is corrected, and I want us to reflect with the House Committee, find a way to alter this centralized working system and try to make sure that the windows of corruption are actually reduced minimally. We are Nigerians, we know who we are, we know what we are, we know what we do. In everything that we do, there are elements of this corruption.
In his response, Edun emphasized President Bola Tinubu's significant role in rescuing Nigeria's economy through bold reforms.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he saved the economy, he saved the society. How did he save the economy? In his time, every penny spent has been earned or has been procured in the financial markets on willing buyer, willing seller terms. Because they believed in his macroeconomic plan, the multilateral institutions, the repositories of the cheapest money internationally, 40 years to pay back, 10 years moratorium, 1% interest. We approached them, they looked at our plan, and they believed in it, and they provided funding.
Following extensive discussions, the committee approved a budget for the Ministry of Finance totaling 38.3 billion, which includes 4.5 billion for overhead and 27.4 billion for capital expenditures. Similarly, the Ministry of Steel Development has presented its 2025 budget proposal for the revitalization of the steel industry for economic growth in the country, as well as solicited for adequate funding of the sector. The Minister, Steel Development, Prince Shaibu Abubakar Audu, speaking at the Joint Committee on Steel Budget Defense Proposal of the Ministry on January 17, 2025 at the National Assembly, noted that the 2025 Capital Budget Proposal outlines the strategic approach of the Ministry's plan to revitalize the steel sector, which is an essential driver for Nigeria's industrialization and economic growth. News Imefono Kon has the details.
While presenting the 2025 budget proposal to the Joint Committee on Steel Budget, the Minister of Steel Development, Shaibu Abubakar Audu, disclosed that the ministry's expenditures have been carefully designed to align with the presidential mandate and the ministry's mission to enhance local capacity, create jobs, and stimulate sustainable development. The minister also told the committee that the ministry's 2025 budget proposal is a far cry of what is needed to move the steel sector forward and therefore solicited for increased budgetary allocation, adding that the adequate funding will help reposition the sector for optimal performance. The minister assured the Joint Committee on Steel Development that funds allocated to the ministry will be properly utilized, noting that never under his watch will the ministry misappropriate budgetary allocation. Earlier in his remarks, the chairman, Senate Committee on Steel, Senator Patrick Ndubueze, while assuring the ministry of its support and collaboration at all times, stated that the steel sector plays a crucial role in the nation's development and leading to industrialization. In a response, the chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Steel, Zainab Gimba, noted that corruption and mismanagement has largely affected the development of the steel sector in the past, while assuring of the committee's commitment to collaborate with the present leadership of the ministry to move the sector forward. Imefono Kon, reporting for News.
Following the suspension of Reverend Father Daniel Okanatoto Ogenerukewe from priestly duties by the Catholic Diocese of Warri in Delta State over his alleged marriage in the United States without completing the necessary procedures for his release from all canonical obligations, pundits and observers have questioned the need to continue the mandatory celibacy rule for Catholic priests and nuns, especially as cases like this have become all too frequent. We have a commentary. Reactions have continued to trail the suspension of Reverend Father Daniel Okanatoto Ogenerukewe from his priestly duties by the Catholic Diocese of Warri in Delta State following his alleged marriage in the United States. The diocese alleged that Father Ogene Rukewe entered into marriage with one Miss Dora Chicha on December 29, 2024 at the Streams of Joy Church in Dallas, United States of America, without completing the necessary procedures to grant his release from all canonical obligations associated with holy orders. The footage of the marriage reportedly circulated widely on social media, prompting the church to act. In a statement titled Decree of Suspension, dated Thursday, January 16, 2025, the church authority said Reverend Father Ogene Rukewe had incurred a late centenary suspension in accordance with the provisions of Canon 1394 and was subsequently suspended from all his duties in the sacred ministry. Such cases have become recurrent in the media space as reports of priests abandoning their vows to the Catholic Church to marry and start their own family is gradually becoming a norm. Recently, a Catholic priest was investigated by police after flying to Italy with his 18-year-old lover, who he eventually got married to. According to reports, Alexander Crow abandoned the parish and traveled to Europe with the young female parishioner shortly after she graduated from McGill Tolland Catholic High School that summer, amid allegations of sexual misconduct and grooming. However, no criminal charges were laid. There have been many cases of sexual abuse of children by priests, nuns, and other members of the Catholic Church. The abused were mostly young boys, some as young as 3 years old, with the majority between the ages of 11 and 14, and some other female victims. In 2023, a nearly 900-page report detailed widespread sexual abuse of children in the Catholic Church throughout Pennsylvania and a sophisticated cover-up by senior church officials. More than 300 priests were found to have abused children, at least 1,000 of them over the course of 7 decades. The report caused a stir at the highest levels of the church, with the Vatican expressing shame and sorrow over the findings. A similar tale was reported in Nigeria in 2023, where a dismissed Catholic priest, Stephen Nwaigwe, was remanded in prison custody for allegedly raping and impregnating a teenager in Anambra State. Similarly, parishioners at Queen of Apostles Catholic Church, Kakuri Parish, Kaduna State, were left in shock following revelation that the parish priest, Very Reverend Father Peter Zuni, 54, was engaged in a secret marriage to 2 women, an act that led to his being disrobed and sacked from the priesthood. According to the doctrine of the Catholic Church, only unmarried men are ordained into the priesthood, as they are obligated to swear an oath of celibacy and observe perfect and perpetual service for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. This, it is believed, would enable the priests to easily remain close to Christ with an undivided heart and dedicated themselves more freely to the service of God and the congregation. However, the rising cases of secret marriages and molestation has brought to the fore the concerns that inasmuch as one may need an active spirit to connect to his God, his fleshly desires are equally important. Even the good book says, it is not good for man to be alone, and that 2 are better than 1. Could it be that the Catholic Church is selfish for only thinking about the spiritual welfare of priests and nuns without thinking about their physical and sexual desires as well? Should the price for following one's God be so heavy that it would cost them their own happiness and the Great Commission in Genesis, which admonishes us to be fruitful and multiply? We leave you, our viewers, to be the judge. Meanwhile, a woman identified as Mary Okanatoto, who claimed to be the biological sister of the suspended Catholic priest, Reverend Father Daniel Okanatoto Ogenerukewe, who dumped his celibacy vows and renounced his priestly call to marry his heartthrob in Dallas, United States, has revealed that Ogenerukewe's decision was as a result of loneliness. Mary Okanatoto further said that it was the best decision for her brother, adding that Father Ogenerukewe suffered from mental health for a long time and could not handle the loneliness as a priest. Father Ogenerukewe, who hails from one of the communities in Iwu Kingdom of Delta State, was ordained as a priest on June 21, 2008 into the Catholic Diocese of Warri before his suspension. Anxiety has mounted at the Ozobo community in Burutu local government area, Delta State, following the demolition and razing of the Osuopele temple by the priests and members of the Great God Holy Tabernacle Ministry, a new generation church in the riverine Ijo town. The general overseer of the church, Prophet Tamare B. Owan, reportedly led his congregation to pull down the temple. It was gathered that the raised temple is the worship center of the traditional worshippers of the Osuopele deity in the town. Villagers said the latest incident was not the first time the fiery clergyman had demolished the Osuopele temple. The newly installed high priest of the Osuopele deity, Timipre Ndoni, confirmed to the serving police officer that the clergy started his attacks on his sect sometime in 2019, noting that his incursion was not challenged due to the vacuum in the leadership of Osuopele adherents. Meanwhile, Owan, an indigene of Ozobo community who led his congregation to attack the traditional temple, said he had no case with anybody, adding that the Osuopele worshippers should allow their deity to fight for itself. A high court in Bauchi State has reportedly sentenced a young man identified as Usman Abdullahi to death by hanging for the murder of Zaidu Adamu Kofar Dumi following an argument over a phone charger. In a judgment delivered by Justice Saad Muhammad Sambual of High Court No. 9, Abdullahi was found guilty of grievous harm and culpable homicide, offenses contrary to sections 239 and 221 of the Penal Code. The prosecution, led by Barrister Abubakar Ahmed Kobi from the State Ministry of Justice, informed the court that the defendant had a disagreement with Zaidu Adamu and his friend over a phone charger, during which an altercation ensued, and Abdullahi was said to have used a knife to stab Zaidu multiple times. Zaidu was rushed to the specialist hospital Bauchi, where he was pronounced dead by medical personnel. Meanwhile, the defense counsel, Barrister Naziru Umar, presented two witnesses and pleaded for leniency on behalf of his client. However, after reviewing the submissions from both parties, Justice Sambual convicted the suspect of culpable homicide punishable by death. If you are just joining us, you're watching the news on Clearview News Desk. We will be back after this break. Stay with us.
No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel. This is therefore a call to individuals, organizations, embassies, political office holders, and more to inform the world about their activities and achievements through documentaries. Here at Clearview, we parade the masters in the business of producing world-class documentaries. Show your stuff to the world by first contacting us through telephone number 0704 244 1177 or email us at clearviewnewsroom@gmail.com. Watch Clearview News at 7 p.m. daily, Monday to Friday on MITV, channel 255, DSTV, and on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Clearview News Desk. We clear the view, one time and for all time.
Welcome back. About 207 abducted children have been reportedly rescued by the operatives of the Nigeria Police Force nationwide. According to the police, a syndicate involved in child abduction and trafficking in Akure, Ondo State was dismantled, rescuing 14 children. Muyiwa Adejobi, the force spokesman, in a statement, explained that the police, acting on intelligence regarding a missing child, arrested 3 suspects: Abosede Olanikbekun, Lukman Isiaka, Sabira Izwara, and rescued 14 children aged between 1 week and 7 years. Adejobi further explained that the Nigeria Police Force has escalated its initiative to combat human trafficking and the operation of illegal baby factories, successfully rescuing more than 207 abducted children from suspected traffickers nationwide. And now to the foreign scene. U.S. President Donald Trump's return to office has been marked by a flurry of executive actions aimed at reversing Biden-era policies. Among his notable moves was a regulatory freeze, halting the issuance of any new regulations until his administration fully takes control. Additionally, he signed an order requiring all federal officials to return to full-time in-office work. Trump also suspended 78 executive orders issued by Biden's administration. The U.S. president made clear his intention to follow through on his campaign pledges, including reducing civil service roles and enhancing government efficiency. In his 29-minute inauguration speech, Trump described his vision for a golden age for the United States while criticizing the Biden administration as radical and corrupt, accusing it of being incapable of managing domestic crises, referencing the Los Angeles wildfire as an example. Meanwhile, several government institutions are now bracing for significant upheaval in the coming weeks as the Trump administration moves to implement further campaign promises, including potential department closures. Trump's aggressive start signals a decisive shift in governance and sets the stage for a controversial and transformative term in office. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. will exit the World Health Organization and suspend all foreign aid for 3 months in an executive order signed on his first day in office. Trump declared that the U.S. would leave the UN Global Public Health Agency in 12 months' time and stop all financial contribution to its work. Washington is by far the WHO's biggest financial backer and is said to contribute about 18% of its overall funding. Trump claims the World Health Organization failed to act independently from the inappropriate political influence of WHO member states and required unfairly onerous payments from the US that are disproportionate to the sums provided by other larger countries such as China. The Geneva-based agency's most recent 2-year budget for 2024 and 2025 was $6.8 billion. World Health Organization projects across the world are seen as a vital backup for health crises, with the agency taking the lead in combating diseases, particularly in poorer countries and conflict zones. It has coordinated international responses to Mpox, Ebola, and polio. In a statement released on Tuesday, the World Health Organization said it regrets the announcement, adding that it plays a crucial role in protecting the health and security of the world's people, including Americans. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of the top stories. Anxiety has mounted at the Ozobo community in Delta State over the demolition and razing of the Osuopele temple by the priest and members of a new generation church in the riverine Ijaw town. The High Court in Bauchi State has reportedly sentenced a young man identified as Usman Abdullahi to death by hanging for the murder of Zaidu Adamu Kofar Dumi following an argument over a phone charger. A woman who claimed to be the biological sister of the suspended Catholic priest over his decision to get married has said that loneliness was responsible for the decision and describes it as the best decision of the former priest. You can follow up on latest events and happenings around you via our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Clearview News Desk, or via our handle on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Clearview Online. Many thanks for joining us. I am Gloria Atta. Bye for now.